Welcome back, everybody. Here's another installment of Get Ready for Game Night, the YouTube video series intended mostly for my friends, so that when they come over for game night, we've already taught the game and we are just ready to go. So tonight we are going to be learning how to play the Voyages of Marco Polo, a worker placement slash dice rolling resource management game from Daniele Taschini and Simon Luciani, I think, put out by Z-Man Games. So let's get to it. So here you see the board all set up. It's a interesting looking board. Everyone starts with the meeple that represents their character up here in Venice, Italy. And throughout the game, you're going to be moving your character around all these different cities, setting up little merchant shops in all these cities, and basically trying to collect victory points, because this is a Euro game. And the main way you're going to be collecting these victory points is by fulfilling what's called contracts. And contracts are going to be in these spaces here. Here is what the contract tokens look like. And if we flip one over, we'll just sort of see this contract wants you to turn in 2 camels, 2 pieces of gold, and 1 silk. And when you do, you will exchange that for 6 victory points as well as 4 camels. Everyone is going to start with at least one of these. And the starting ones are indicated by the blue back. Here's this character's starting contract. It wants 1 camel and 3, I think, what are those, spices, I think? Or pepper, yeah. 1 camel and 3 pepper. And when you fulfill that contract, you will get 1 victory point and you will get to move your character 1 space. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Basically, the upper half of this board that we already covered shows all the different locations that you're going to be going to. And then the lower half of the board has all these spaces here with sort of a blank die. We'll zoom in here so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. You see a sort of a blank die here and here. There's one over here. You're going to be rolling your dice because everyone has their individual player board here. You're going to be rolling your dice and then taking a die and putting it on these various spaces throughout the board and activating that space. Typical worker placement stuff. But the value of the die that you rolled will determine how powerful each of the spaces are. So let's talk about the initial setup. I've set this board up for 2 players. You see over there in the corner, you have a red player and a green player. I'm going to be focusing on the green player here. Everyone also starts the game with 2 camels. As you collect the resources, you sort of keep them here. Your gold, your pepper, and your silk you keep on the left side. The camels you keep on the right side. And we've set up those resources here. There's our pepper, our silk, our gold, and our camels. Just for the sake of bookkeeping, it's kind of hard to tell on video, but there are 2 different sizes of all of these resources. The larger size just represents 3 of the smaller size. We also have a money supply that's readily available, a stack of contracts, and then there I have the red player also set up and ready to go. Everyone's also going to get a little cheat sheet that you can reference throughout the game to tell you what your available actions are. The other thing we've done to set up is if we take a look at all these cities, on each city there is a card that I have placed down. And again, you'll see there is a die space right here on the left, as well as on the large cities, there's this little bonus tile on the top. And then there's these 4 spaces along the top of the city there those are spaces where you will be able to place your, oh, what do they call them? Trading posts. Everyone starts the game with a supply of these trading posts, also on your player mat. Everyone gets 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of them. And as you place your trading posts in these cities, that will give you more opportunities, more places where you can place your dice and whatnot. Now the cool thing is, I have set this game up somewhat randomly, where these cards, which are the abilities that you can do in these cities, as well as these bonus tokens for the first person to get a trading post in the city, they're random. Every single time you play the game, you can distribute them randomly, and it's going to change the layout of the board each and every time. In addition to the city cards that I've already laid out, you will notice there is a ton of other city cards. So it's very unlikely that you would ever play the same game of Marco Polo twice. In addition, the bonus tiles at the tops of the cities, again, you're going to put those out randomly, and there's more bonus tiles than there are cities. So again, high amount of variability and replayability in this game. That's the large cities, but there's also these small cities. And these small cities, they don't have as much. Basically, you have a bonus action. Anytime you see that exclamation point, that means at the beginning of every round. Most of the small cities, if not all of them, once you have a trading post in that small city, every single round you're going to get some type of bonus. If you're in Kachi, then at the start of every round you're going to get 3 points. Let's take a look at another small city. Hard to see behind the black dice, but Adana there, if you have a trading post there, at the start of every round you will get a camel and $3. So that's what the small cities do. And again, the small cities, the bonus that you get for having a trading post in the small cities is variable. You can randomly distribute these, although for simplicity's sake, there is this, if we can get it to focus here. In the upper corner, there is a little letter indicating the recommended spot. You'll see the little E there, and then there's a E on that city. For a first-time playthrough, they recommend putting those small city tokens according to those letters. What else about setup? Everyone also is going to get 2 secret objective cards. And again, there is a large stack of these objective cards. So you will have different objectives throughout the game. And basically, these objective cards are telling you you want to have outposts in these cities at the end of the game. It will give you the name of the city, a little visual reference as to where they are on the map, and then if you get an outpost in both of these cities at the end of the game, you're going to score a bonus of 7 points. Now, everyone gets 2 of these, because in addition to, if you get both of these, you get 7 points. If you get both of these, you'll get 5 points. But also, you're going to get some bonus points at the end. If you have an outpost in one distinct city, you'll get 1 extra point. 2 distinct cities, 3 distinct cities is 6, and 4 distinct cities is 10. Now, why is that? Well, if you look at this example here, both of these objective tokens have Karachi listed as one of the cities you're trying to get into. So that's going to make it a little easier for this player to get 1 outpost in Karachi accomplishes half of the goal of both of these. So they're likely going to be able to get both these 7 points and these 5 points, but at most they're only going to have 3 distinct cities captured, so they'll only get 6 bonus points at the end. Just sort of a balancing mechanism there on the bottom if you happened to have an easy go of it up here by lucking out and getting 2 of the same city on your 2 objective cards. So everyone gets that, and then finally, everyone is going to get a player token. And these player tokens basically let you break the rules in some fun and overpowered way. We'll cover these at the end once you understand how basic gameplay works. So, someone's going to get this start player token. Looks like an hourglass. I think they say the last person that's gone on a voyage gets it, but you can obviously decide that however you want. The game is played over 5 rounds. You'll see there's 5 stacks set up ahead of time of these contracts. And one of the first things you do is you're going to take these contracts and just lay them out in contract row here. And we'll swing this over so you can see as I'm doing that. And that gives you an idea of the different contracts that you might want to go after. And now let's talk about how the flow of the game is going to work. Like I said, you're going after victory points mainly by completing those contracts. So, at the start of a round, you're going to choose a new start player. And the start player each round is going to be whoever chose the last person that chose a travel action during the previous round. One of the actions you can do is this action right here of traveling. The last player that chose this gets to go first next round. Okay, so you choose a new start player. You're going to award any bonuses you might have, looking for if you control any city that has these little exclamation points. Again, the exclamation point means at the start of a round, if you have a trading post in that city, you get something. So you award all that stuff. You're going to pick up all your dice, and then you are going to roll your dice. And so we'll try to do this as neatly and cleanly as possible. You're going to pick up all your dice and roll them. And you don't have to put them in order, but I find it's easier to do that. And those are the dice you're going to get to spend on your turn. Now, after you roll your dice, there is something called compensation. If the total on all of your dice is less than 15, then you get to gain a coin or 1 camel for each point that you are short of 15. So let's see, we got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So in this case, I only rolled a 14. I would then get to collect either 1 coin or 1 camel, my choice, because I rolled less than 15. Because generally speaking, the higher numbers are better. So I've rolled the dice, I've collected my compensation, and now it's my turn. Well, on your turn, you're going to do 1 thing for sure and 2 things optionally. The one thing you're going to do for sure is choose and carry out an action by taking one of your dice and putting it on any one of these die spaces that we'll go over in detail in just a minute. But both before you do that and after you do that, you have the opportunity to carry out a bonus action. And the bonus actions are outlined on the player cheat sheet here, and we will cover them. The first thing you could do before or after your turn is if you have all the stuff you need to complete a contract, you can go ahead and complete it. You would turn in whatever the contract requires and then gain the reward. And then the other thing you do, once you've completed your contract, like let's say, yay, we got this contract done, we'd take it out of our active contract slots, we have 2 of them, and we put it down here on our completed contracts. And I think you're supposed to put them face down so no one can see what you've done. And hopefully you're going to stack up a lot of these during the game because, as you can hopefully see, there's this 7 right here. Light's catching it a little bit odd, but yep. There's a 7 right there, meaning whoever has completed the most contracts at the end of the game is going to get a 7-point bonus. So if you complete a contract, you take it out of your active contract slot, put it down here in your completed contract slot. So that's one of the bonus actions you could take. Another bonus action you could take is you could just get 3 coins. And the way you do that is you're going to take 1 die and put it in the money bag spot and take 3 coins regardless of the die's value. So if you're really hard pressed for money and you've got this like little measly value 1 die here, there is a spot on the board. It's right up here. It's called the money bag. We'll zoom in there, and you can see there are, in fact, slide these out of the way, 3 coins coming out of the money bag. If you just put a die here, and you'll also, I don't know if you can see it on camera, there's a little infinity symbol, meaning there's no limit to the number of dice that can be here. You put that die there, you get 3 coins. That does not count as your turn. That's just a way to get some quick money. So that's the second bonus action you could take. The third bonus action, you can re-roll a die. If you don't like the result of the die that you got, you can re-roll one of them, but it'll cost you a camel to do that. So you get rid of 1 camel, you can re-roll a die, you have to keep the second result. Well, let's say you really, really want one specific number. You can adjust a die value up 1 or down 1. You know, a 2 can become a 3, or it could become a 1, your choice. But that's going to cost you 2 camels. So again, before your turn even starts, you can spend 2 camels to change the face of a die up or down by 1. And finally, the last bonus action you can take, again, a lot of these bonus actions cost camels. You could get an extra die. That's a black die, but that's going to cost you 3 camels. So, and that's what these black die are here. So if you want to spend 3 camels, you get rid of them, put them back in the supply. You get to grab a black die, roll it. Hooray! Now I get a 5 that I can play with on my turn. And I just add that to your array of dice that you get to spend. So, at the start of your turn, you can take any one of those bonus actions, and at the end of the turn, you can take any one of those bonus actions. Again, assuming you can pay for them. So, now, what do you actually do on your turn? Well, you're going to take a die, put it on one of those die spaces up there, and resolve that action. So let's go over what those actions are. Starting at the beginning. Want to make sure I don't miss anything. You got this space over here. A single die. It's got 5 little coins next to it. If you put a die of any value there, you get 5 coins. It's irrelevant the value of the die. So take a value 1 die, put it right there, you collect 5 coins. You know, maybe you need some money toward getting a contract. Like I said, the die value that you use is irrelevant. You just always take 5 coins. Now, interesting mechanism in this game that we'll cover right now. Let's say the red player, well, he really wanted to go in this spot, but ooh, the green player's already taken it. The red player can still go there. He would just take a die and stack it on top of the green player. But whenever you stack your die on top of another player's die, you are going to be paying that player. Basically, if you want to take an already occupied space, you just pay as many coins as the die value of the lowest value die you just used. So in this case, the red player could do this, but he would have to pay 3 coins to the green player because he put a 3 die on top. You know, that wouldn't make a lot of sense, but just to illustrate the mechanism, you pay 3 coins to the green player, and then you would collect 5 coins from the bank. And that holds true for any space on the board. Now there's a couple of spaces, as we're talking about this. We'll zoom in a little bit tighter here. This space here requires 3 dice. So if the green player has put 3 dice here, and then the red player wants to put 3 dice on top of it, he doesn't add them all together. Just whatever is the lowest value of the 3 dice that you put on top, that is how much money you would have to pay the green player. All right, so back to the action spaces. So put a die here, collect $5. All right, awesome. Next space. We will zoom out for this. We could go to, I think it's the bazaar. This is where you're going to collect a lot of resources at the Grand Bazaar. you're going to put a die in one of these spaces here, or two dice, I'm sorry, in this space, or three dice in this space. And depending on what value you put, like let's say it's a 5, you would then look along the top of the array, find where the 5 is, trace it down, you just got yourself 5 camels. Okay? So which row you put it in, coupled with what the die value is, will tell you what the reward you get is. Now, if you want to put 2 dice in this spot here, because it requires 2 dice, you are going to be looking at whichever die has the lowest value, in this case a 4, that's the column you look at. So in this case, the green player would go over to the value 4, and he would get 3 silk. Now, you actually have the choice. If you don't want the 3 silk, let's say you really need the camel, you can actually select any value that's to the left of the lowest die you played. All right, so you could take 3 silk or 2 silk and 1 camel, or 2 silk or just 1 silk. You know, the main reason you'd want to take a lower value is maybe for some variety, like in that case. And the same concept holds true for this top row. It requires 3 dice. Whichever is the lowest value die, in this case I just put a 1 there, you just got 1 gold. And you can sort of see some themes. The bottom row is mostly camels, and then the pepper, and then the silk, and then the gold. And then the higher the value, generally the more you get or the more bonuses you get. So that's how the Grand Bazaar, that's how you're going to collect a lot of your resources. Now, how do you get more contracts? Well, you could head right on down to the contract area. You're going to put 1 die here, and let's say you got a 4, and you can see those die faces along the top. We go to contract number 4, and you can collect this contract. Now, to collect that contract, you've got to have an empty contract space. One of these has to be open. You know, maybe you still have your first contract of the game, and now you're working on these 2. But if you already have 2, you can still collect a new contract, but you have to eliminate one of these and just sort of discard it into the, there's this pile to the side that's not part of the stacks of contracts to the right. And that goes to the bottom of that stack, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yeah, when you take a new contract, you have to have room. If you don't have enough space, you must discard one or both of your older contracts, adding them to the bottom of the special contract pile. And what that is, at the beginning of the game, we have, like I said, 5 stacks of contracts. They're going to repopulate the contract row every round. But then we also have a stack of 8 what are called special contracts that you set to the side. So if you discard a contract just to make room, it's going to go into that pile at the bottom. Now, when you take a contract, let's see, does it happen as soon as you take it? I think so. Yes, immediately after taking that contract, something pretty cool happens. All the contracts that are of higher value slide down. Now, why does that matter? Well, it's going to make, getting later contracts maybe a little bit cheaper, but also, if you're able to take a contract with a 5 or a 6 die, not only do you get the contract, you get a bonus. If you take the 5 level contract, you get 1 coin and a camel. If you take the 6 level contract, you get 2 coins or 2 camels. And I think I said and over here. It's actually or. The slash always means or. Your choice. But as people take contracts in a given round, let's say someone else takes this one, again, all the contracts are going to slide down. So as the round progresses, that 5 and 6 is going to disappear pretty quickly. So you have to keep that in mind when you're deciding how you want to spend your die. Do you want to use those high level ones to get the really good contracts, or are you going to wait for them to slide down? Now, you'll notice there's a slash. You can take 1 contract or 2 contracts. What does that mean? Well, whatever value die you put, if you put at least a level 2 die, that means you can pick 1 or 2 contracts that are level 2 or lower. So if I have a level 4 die, I can select any 2 contracts that are level 4 or lower. I could pick any 2 of these, or 1 of them, as long as it got the space for it. So that's how that works. Next space you can go to is, well, let's talk about movement. To move your guy around the board, it's always going to take 2 dice. And it's always going to cost you some money. Now, so let's put 2 dice out here on the movement token. We got a 5 and a 4. Again, you're going to look at the lowest value die of the one you just placed. So in this case, a 4. We trace it over the number 4 spot. I can move my character up to 4 spaces as long as I pay $12. It's very expensive to move in this game. Very hard to get around the game. So, in addition to moving, because now let's go up and take a look at the board. Zoom in just a little bit here. So I can move from a city along a path to another city. And I can move along these paths, these little hut-looking things. And the little hut-looking things, oh, what do they call them? I believe they're called oasis. Going from a city to the next stop, basically an oasis or another city, in addition to the normal movement costs, sometimes there will be additional costs printed on the route. So I don't know if you can see that. We will zoom in here. So traveling by sea from Alexandria to that oasis, in addition to the cost of the movement, that's also going to cost 7 extra coins. Traveling from that oasis where I am now to the city of Ormuz is going to cost 3 additional camels. So moving is very expensive in this game. Now, if you end your movement in a city, you then get to place one of your outposts in that city on one of the available outpost markers. Just indicating that, you know, for end of round effects and things like that. So for the rest of the game, at the beginning of each round, I would get 3 camels because I have an outpost here. Now, if I were to end my turn in a large city, let's take a look at Karachi here. I would put an outpost here, and if I'm the first one to do it, I get to take this bonus token. This is mine. It goes away, it leaves the game, but not until I collect, if I can get it to go into focus, my bonus of 3 camels. So I'd collect my 3 camels, I'd put my guy there, my little outpost, and the other thing that does is I now have an additional space on the board where I can place a die. And the same rules apply in the city die spaces as they do in the regular die spaces. So from now on, for the rest of the game, I can put a die here of any value. And whatever value of the die I put there is, that's how many times I can activate that city. So just for the sake of argument, let's say I put a 5 here on a future turn. That means I can 5 times activate this city's power, which in this case is trade in 1 camel for $3 or trade in $1 for 1 camel. So by putting a number 5 die here, I could trade in 5 camels for $15 or trade in $5 to get 5 more camels. So as you explore the world, you get more places where you can place your die, let you do different things. Now there's a couple of special cities out there that we'll talk about that if you can get to. One of them is Sumatra. If you are able to get one of your trading posts in Sumatra, for the rest of the game, the Sumatra has 3 powers that you can activate. So that's pretty cool. That's a really powerful city to get to. But as you can see, it's expensive to get to Sumatra. To travel from this oasis, it's going to cost you your normal moving cost plus 4 camels. To get there from Kachi, it's going to cost you $10 plus your normal moving costs. And again, you can only place an outpost if you end your turn in a city. The other special city is way up here. It is the furthest city away from Venice, the starting point, and that is Beijing. The first player that ends his turn in Beijing, I'm going to lean in a little bit here, gets to put his outpost on this 10-point victory spot, which you probably guessed it means you get 10 points. The second player to Beijing gets 7 points, the third player gets 4 points, and the last player to Beijing gets 1 point. And that's how movement works and pretty much how cities work. The last space that you can go to, way down here, this lower corner space, that is called the Khan's Favor. And this is always exactly 1 die. And when you place exactly 1 die, you get 1, your choice of either gold, pepper, or silk, and 2 camels. So this is a nice spot to go to. But there is this rule here. This is the only spot where you don't stack dice here. The first person to go puts their die here. The next person to go must place a die that is equal to or greater than the die to its left. So it might be a 5. So that means if anyone else wants to go there, they have to play either a 5 or a 6. And so on and so on. And that's pretty much all the spaces and all the actions that you can take in the game. As soon as someone has spent as soon as everyone, I should say, has spent all of their dice, you will end the round. And remember, you can always take those bonus actions at the end of your turn as well. After you place a dice, you can then take a bonus action. So the round is over as soon as everyone's out of dice, and then the next player's turn will go at the end of your turn, I should say. At the end of the whole round, any contracts that are still in the contract row are completely eliminated. You'll grab another stack of 6 contracts that were set aside earlier and reveal them for the next round. And again, whoever was the last player to move gets to be the first player the next round. The game is over after 5 rounds, and you're going to get some bonus points. You'll tally up your secret objective cards for having outposts in various cities. You also score 1 victory point for every 10 coins that you have left. You'll add in your victory points for being in Beijing. If you have a trading post in Beijing, you also score 1 victory point for every 2 goods, but don't count your camels. For in this game, goods are the pepper, the silk, and the gold. Camels are not considered goods. You have. So being in Beijing is really powerful because not only do you get the bonus points, you will also get 1 victory point for every 2 goods that you have at the end of the game if you're in Beijing. And the player who has the most completed contract scores 7 points. That's the base game. Just that game by itself would be really, really cool. But then they added one more wrinkle. And the last wrinkle I'm going to talk about are the special powers, because these are really cool. Everyone in the game gets one of these player tokens. It's sort of the character that you're going to play in the game, and every one of them does something amazing. I've heard a lot of people online say that these characters are broken. They're way too powerful, but they're all way too powerful, which makes the game really fun. So we'll start with Rashid Adin Sanan, and I just call him the Wizard because he does not roll dice. During the roll dice phase, he just can say they're all sixes. And then as he's placing dice on the board, he can change them to anything he wants. And that even applies when he spends some camels to get those extra black dice. He can make them anything he wants for the entire game. Extremely powerful. Another very powerful character is Matteo Polo. I think that was Marco Polo's father. Beginning of every round, he gets the white die. He gets an extra die, basically, every single round. And at the beginning of every round, he gets to grab an extra contract from those special contracts that were set aside. I think there's 8 of them. And, look at it and decide, does he want to keep it and replace one of his current contracts, or does he want to discard it? So he always gets an extra die, and he always gets to look at one extra contract and decide if he wants to keep it or not. And all of the players are crazy powerful like that. There's one of them, Wilhelm von Rubruck. He gets 2 extra trading posts at the start of the game, and he does not have to end his turn in a city to drop them off. If he just goes through a city, he drops off a trading post. Amazing. And at the end of the game, if he gets all 11 of his trading posts out there, he scores 10 more points. Super powerful. This is probably the craziest one. Niccolo and Marco Polo. You get to have 2 travelers. And at the beginning of every round, you get to get an extra camel. But you have 2 meeples on the board traveling in concert. When you buy movement points, let's say you bought 5 movement points, you could move one of your workers 3 and the other one 2. So you can get around the board way faster. What does this guy do? Kublai Khan. Instead of starting in Venice, he starts in Beijing. So right off the bat, he is going to be 10 points ahead of everybody else because he starts in Beijing and just gets to put one of his trading posts there. And it goes on and on. You have all these different characters. You have this one character that his special power changes depending on how many players are in the game. And that just really makes the gameplay interesting. So that's pretty much all you need to know how to play the Voyages of Marco Polo. It's a really neat, interesting game. Similar mechanisms of, rolling those dice and placing them, sort of like an Alien Frontiers, but with a lot more resource management than I think was in Alien Frontiers, and a little bit of a historical theme, which I think is cool. So hopefully you guys will be ready for game night, and see you next time.